Okay. For some reason I was stalled or something. Okay, what am I doing wrong? This is the pattern that I'm starting to see bubble up all week for me. So and then I went to my alternative practitioner, Mary, from Bionetic Health, and I was talking to her about something, and she said, "Oh, well, because I always think like developing a witness side of ourselves is a really healthy thing." So I was telling her about how I kind of have this strong witness, and it was actually something I took pride in. Pride. And so what happened was she's like, "Oh, well, it seems like you're on this side of things and your experience is on this side. So there's, working with people that have no witness and idea that there's anything that they're contributing to the situation. And then there's over here where it's kind of like a hyper responsibility for a situation. And somewhere in the middle is this healthy witness, if you will. So it's really healthy to peel away from our personality and peel away from who we feel like we're attached to, and just take a look. Take a look at our behaviors, our strategies, what's happening, right? So this is what I've been doing a lot of this week, and I'm noticing that I am hyper responsible for everything. And then there's people that may be hypo, right? We have the thyroid issue of being in the underactive or the hyperactive, and you can have a witness body that's hyperactive or underactive. So a witness part of ourselves is a way of spiritually maturing, and it's however it can get skewed. So what I'm talking about is that hyper responsibility and that hyper acuity of thinking everything's your fault. And so what do we do about that? One, what I think some things that come up for me is just like it's a pattern of overcompensating, and it's a pattern of controlling things because we feel uneasy, right? Or that we're going to be unaccepted or judged, and so I grew up with my mom always telling me, "Who cares what people think? Who cares what people think?" And I just told my son that just today. I was like, you know what? It was always stuck in my head from my mom is who cares what people think? On some level, it's a really healthy way to go about life so that we could just really go out into the world and share our voice, share our talents, share ourselves with people without inhibiting ourselves from their judgment, right? So overcompensating and controlling a situation, what is that about? And so I've been exploring this a little bit, and this week I'm looking at, what's really up for me in my Reiki practice is surrendering and trusting. So it's probably right on par for this whole pattern of mine of looking at my hyper responsibility of things. What am I doing wrong? How can I get it right? What am I doing wrong? And looking at it as like, what if I surrender and trust? What if I surrender and trust? And hey, Kristen, what would happen? And so I've been doing more of that lately. So of course the universe is like, okay, well here's a little bit more remnants of this hyper responsibility. All of a sudden I'm these situations are showing up in my life where I can follow this pattern of hyper responsibility, or just say, you know what? This is what I chose to do. This is what seemed like the thing for me to do in the moment. And can I stand by that, whether it's right or wrong? Whatever it is, it's creating shift in the world. Though out of the mouth of babes, my son, I was talking to my son about this, and he was saying, well, Mom, what if this person in your community really just needed to hear something, and if you didn't, like, that she would be unconscious for, like, maybe this was a seed of consciousness that you gave her. Because part of me was like, did I do that wrong? Did I say that wrong? And instead he was just like, maybe it's the perfect thing. Maybe it's uncomfortable for you right now, but if you never did that, maybe that seed of consciousness would never be maybe that she would never have that until later in her life. So it was very interesting because so this was out of my son's mouth, and I was like, oh, okay, thank you, son. Thank you for that wisdom. Yeah, what if sometimes we have a way of being in the world, a way of expressing, and here we are, we're just giving it, we're contributing. And someone doesn't receive it the way we expect. Well, is that something wrong we did? Is that something wrong they did? Or is it just what is? If we surrender to, oh, this is what is, this is how they're taking it, this is how I'm taking it, and what if there's not a problem? What if no one's wrong? Can that be possible? Can there be no wrong? And this kind of starts me going into my head, oh my gosh, there's no wrong. So it reminds me of an Access Consciousness tool. It's a question you ask about situations in your life. It says, what you ask yourself is, what's right about this that I'm not getting? So with several situations coming up in the past week, I'm asking, what's right about this that I'm not getting? And so with these uncomfortable situations, or situations that, we're hooked into, situations that, they're just uncomfortable, just ask yourself, what's right about this that I'm not getting? Right? So it's like, and it's not in like the right or wrong, but it's just like, what's a perspective I could have that I can be in the world and anything I do is some kind of contribution. So overcompensating and being hyper responsible, maybe there's nothing wrong with that either. However, I'm starting to feel like I don't want to play in that playground anymore, right? So it's kind of fun thinking about playgrounds, right? So when you're a little kid and you go on this merry-go-round and you're like, Mom, I really want to go to that park and go on that merry-go-round. And finally you're like, I'm bored. I don't want to be on that merry-go-round anymore. I want to try a different park. So basically I want to try a different park. I want to try letting go of overcompensating and controlling things and being in this state of, oh, what did I do wrong? How can I fix this? I really don't want to play in that playground anymore. I want to go over to a different playground. And so what if nothing's wrong? It's just you'd like to change and do something in a different way. So I was sitting here in my Reiki practice this morning, and I just, what I do? I just put my symbols on my hands and I call it in, and I just sit there. And I just be in the presence of infinite energy and high frequency Reiki. And it's very soothing. It's very soothing. And sometimes I just get this very slight whisper of awareness and a whisper of perspective. We're like, hey, it's all okay. And then I get reattuned to the energy of surrender and trust. And this is the new playground I want to play in. Okay? The merry-go-round of, what did I do wrong? How can I fix it? Woo! I'm kind of done with that playground. I'm going to go over here and play in the playground of surrender and trust. And what's light and right about this that I'm not getting? So anyway, maybe that's a contribution. I see Kristen and Megan. Do you have any comments or does this light up? Does this, is this have anything to do or speak to anything that you're going through around, right and wrong and being like that hyper responsible person for everything? Yeah. Earlier I just talked about that healthy witness. We can go far over here and have no witness at all. We can go far over here and just take hyper responsibility for everything. And both get really exhausting after a while. And so playing in the playground of the healthy witness, and healthy witness strengthens our intuition, the intuitive voice, and that soft whisper of awareness. And after that is that pure expression of authentic self and bliss body and spirit. So as we develop the witness, we get closer to just creating our life from this bliss body, this authentic self. So developing, yes, I can relate. Yes, thank you, Megan. So do you want to come play on a different playground with me? The playground of surrender and trust instead of hyper responsibility and fix everything? Yay! um, yeah, so now I'm in the throes of practice. I practice different tools of go into my authentic self and having my own back and being like, yeah, that's how I communicated here. Yeah, this is what I created. Oh, this person reacted that way. Oh, okay. And then there's a healthy witness of an awareness of like, huh, okay, hey, how are you doing with this? You know, and there's a place to be compassionate and talk things out. And then there's a healthy place of saying, this is how I do things. This is me. This is I got my back. And so it's, you know, feel into when it's time to. I'm learning to witness more while not taking responsibility for others, especially when it has to do with responses toward me. I don't latch on to their viewpoint. Awesome. Yeah, so latching on to someone else's viewpoint about us. That is so learning to unlatch and be an allowance of letting them have their perspective, but seeing it as just an interesting point of view. And some people want us to kind of hook in and say like, well, don't you want to be interested in why I think that about you? And honestly, I've gotten to the point where I'm saying, not really. I'm not that interested. What I really think my point of view is that if you're bothered by someone, it's your responsibility to say, huh, I'm bothered. I wonder what's up for me. What's going on? Why am I triggered? Why am I not an allowance? What's going on for me? So I think it's super healthy to hey, Katie, to unlatch and detach from people's perspectives of us. They're welcome to them. They're welcome to their interesting points of view about us. And then there's, you know, a way of speaking in a compassionate way to each other, being like, hey, you know, I do this with my husband all the time. It's just like, sweetie, this isn't working for me. Can we do this a different way? Do you mind? Can we talk about this? Yes, there's room for that. But when we get too out here, there's a certain codependency that we have sometimes about latching onto people's points of view of us. And it's almost like it feeds us and stuff. And it's a real healthy personal growth moment to like just start to unlatch. Megan said, like, you know, I'm not latching on to people's points of view anymore about me. And because it can go either way. If someone says, oh, wow, you're so awesome, da 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 da, and you get all puffed up, thank you. But if someone said, oh, wow, you're really full of shit, you're like, oh. So it's this roller coaster of being like, oh, thank you. Oh, my God. Oh, thank you. So it's like if the polarization of caring what people think of us is just this beep, beep, beep kind of thing. So what we really have to do is tune into what our perspective is about ourselves, be an allowance of ourselves, have a healthy witness of ourselves, and have our back. And it's just like, you're welcome to your point of view. And I'm welcome to mine. And it's okay that they're not the same. And some people can get really, really bent out of shape about that. Yes, codependence. I agree. Yeah. So codependence. I come from a whole line of codependency. There's just a lot of alcoholism and where I grew up and stuff. And that creates a lot of codependency. And it's a real choice to start saying, I don't want to live with that dynamic anymore. I'm done with that playground. I want to play over here somewhere. So it's kind of where I'm at too, looking at some codependency things that were a little subconscious here, you know. So bringing them to the surface, and they're really coming to the surface. And sometimes like that awareness, when things come to the surface, the more conscious areas, it's like, oh, okay, yeah. So Where are we playing out some codependency patterns, codependent on other people's points of view of us, to have a sense of self? And what if, would we be okay with having a sense of self if no one had any, if we just, what if no one had a point of view about us? Could we still have a sense of self? And peeling away and seeing ourselves, witnessing ourselves, rather than needing and requiring everyone to witness us to have a sense of self. Witness yourself. So, yeah, what else do I want to say here? Two sides, accountability. I think that's about it. New playground. Yes! Let's go to the new playground. So yeah, I like this analogy of the new playground, that we're just kind of bored with this old playground, because it doesn't make something right or wrong. It doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make us wrong for playing in this playground for so long. It's just, there's no right or wrong about it. It's just like, I want to play somewhere else now. And where I'm choosing to play now is surrender and trust and having my own back. And Reiki, Holy Fire Reiki, really has been just this beautiful energy in my life to help me do that. And the Access Consciousness tools too. So that's what I got for you today. So hi, Danielle. I'm just about to wrap up, but we're talking about playing in a new playground, and just having our own back, and learning how not to be hyper responsible, learning how to create a healthy witness, and really having a sense of self without needing the validation of everyone out in front of us. And so, yeah, if you're just tuning in right now, I'm just about to end this, but feel free to tune in earlier to the beginning. And if you have any questions or comments, I want to keep the conversation going, I'm happy to do that in the comments. And yeah, I'll be back. I'm doing this for 30 days straight. I think this is the 4th day, just coming up with topics that are alive in my life and how we bring it back to the authentic self. And it's also a launch to really have a conversation about this authentic self. And I have a winter mentorship program coming up with 3 coaching calls in a Facebook group called The Authentic Self. And it's a mentoring program for winter, so that we can all stay in this beautiful place of like growth and lightness through the winter together. So that's coming up in December. So I'll see you tomorrow with a new topic. Bye.